Hey, so we're back. We're going to look at our last semiconductor stock here, which is Micron. They're more or less known for memory type chips as opposed to performance or, anything like that. They're focused on memory. Before we get started and looking into them, if you have any opinions on Micron and what you want to do with them and what you kind of are seeing in terms of short-term or long-term potential for this company, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear just your opinion on it. So, uh, with that said, let's check out Micron. So it looks like I did follow them for a little bit back in the day, probably around, well, clearly during this era, somewhere in this decline, which if we kind of draw that out, it looks like the bottom was somewhere around here. So as tradition, of what I've been doing at least, is I've just been using a 5-line system. This first line, it represents the very peak of this stock, which is right around 96. Then we can draw in another line. Whoop, didn't mean to click that one. The second line is going to be what appears to be like the bottom for this stock, which happens to be about 49. I'm just going to update my spreadsheet a little bit. So it's currently at 57. And so it looks like I drew in a couple of these faint lines, so I clearly didn't have too much of a strong opinion on that. So I'm just going to remove those. I don't want to dig into where my thoughts were at the time, but this one, I guess we thought at one point that this might be the low, was 65. Clearly it went through that, and now it's bounced around 50. So 50 would be like the ultimate buy time. This 65 line, I'm not too opposed to it. Maybe that would be like the that might be like our green line, our buy point. Um, let's just kind of keep dancing around and see what I would consider a sell point. Because clearly, like, in the short term, and this, honestly, this can date back to June of 22, it has just been going up and down between this 50 and 65 mark. So, honestly, like, short term, that might be kind of the play that we should uh, look at this one. It's just in this 6 month period. And if that is true, then maybe we would drag this down to like we would just more or less overlap the black line at about 49 as our buy point. And then if we just drag this down to 65 as our sell point, that would give us about a, let's see, uh, 65 minus 49 divided by 49. That would give you about a 32% return if you can catch it at about 49 or 50. So that's pretty good, I would say, especially if you can make that turnaround in like a month or two. Uh, I think how I would play this one is if hypothetically I was able to catch it at the very bottom at 49 and then watch it climb back up to about 64, then I don't think I would sell completely out. I might do, at the very basic form, what a potential kind of option to do would be, buy two shares down here at 49. If it climbs back up to 64, sell one. If it walks back down to 49, maybe buy another two. As it walks back up, maybe sell one, and then let that pattern continue. And then hopefully, depending on how many times it does this, you'll build up a little bit of a portfolio in Micron that once it actually makes the surge to get up over 64, then you can really cash out, because if it goes up above this, and there's a decent amount of candles, but I mean, as we know, the all-time high is near 96, so there's no telling where it could go. But uh, let's just add in one more line just to kind of show what the fair value would be today. For this one, we can almost cut it right down the middle, almost right where it's at today. And really, I'm just basing that off. And it's interesting that it's dancing around here because it just surged so quickly through this period. And so it does make sense that now it's kind of chopping through that area, because that, that just makes sense to me. That I've just heard that whenever it surges up like that or crashes down very quickly, that depending on which way it's going, once it gets back into that area, it almost kind of dances around that area for at least a little while, a couple months probably, and uh, then it kind of shifts towards one way or the other. So this kind of, based on that opinion, this kind of makes sense to me. But this blue fair value line, which happens to be right around where it is today, I'm more or less just basing that off the fact that it seems like a lot of weeks it would either end at that point. That's really it. It just seems like a lot of weeks end roughly at that point. In this like roughly 6-8 month period, we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 weeks out of, I don't know what that would be. Let's see, 8 times 4. We have like nearly a third of the weeks ended on that. And then you could probably add in like, there's just so many right around that period. So that kind of makes sense to me as like the fair market is right around 56. So if you can catch this one less than 56, no complaints from me on that. Ideally, the closer we can get it to 49, the better. So for this one, I would actually say kind of wait, but it's definitely close. But considering how small the window is, it might take a couple weeks to actually get back down to 49. Like, it looks like the first time it cut through our roughly $57 mark, it took, you could say, 2 weeks, maybe 3, and then it rose back up. And then when it cut through again, it took another 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly 5 weeks. And so right now we're like closing in on that mark. And so we'll just kind of wait and see how this one plays out. It looks like it's very probable that it'll get back down to 50. And if it does, I'll probably make a purchase there. Not much, maybe just 1 or 2, because it's not a quality enough stock that I would really unload into it, but I do think it's worth having in your portfolio, so, or at least my portfolio. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. So this is our tracker again. I'm not going to give it any color because it's like right in the middle, so it's not really close to a buy point or a sell point. So we'll just leave it at that. And again, if you have any opinions on this, if you want to add any stocks, if you think, I should follow something, because the goal here is we kind of want to find a stock where we can catch it down here. And let me just kind of draw a line in where we would catch it, say like at this point or even here, and then just watch it kind of just ride up this roller coaster, and then get out when we see it maybe start falling a little bit. That would be ideal. We're trying to find stocks like that. That would be great, where we can double, triple our investment in less than a year would be great. But that's kind of the goal here. And so again, if I didn't say so before, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.